Introduction to CSS. In the previous chapter, you have learnt about the basics of HTML. Using HTML, the user can define the structure of a web page by specifying the headings, paragraphs, line breaks, text formatting, and other elements. Users can make their web pages more presentable and interesting using CSS along with HTML. Consider these illustrations in order to understand the relationship between HTML and CSS. In this chapter, you will learn about the basics of CSS and how to apply it in an HTML document. CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It is a design language which is used to format the layout of web pages. It also describes how the HTML elements are to be displayed on web pages. CSS can be used to define text styles, color, background color, borders, table sizes, and various other aspects of web pages. In a nutshell, you can say that CSS controls the style or manner in which the content is presented on a web page. CSS helps web developers creating a uniform look across several pages of a website. Instead of separately defining the style of each block of text in an HTML page, commonly used styles are defined only once in a CSS document. Once the style is defined in Cascading Style Sheet, it can be used by any page that references the CSS file. Moreover, CSS makes it easy to change styles across several pages at once. For example, a web developer may want to increase the default text size from 10 point to 12 point for 50 pages of a website. If the pages all reference the same style sheet, the text size only needs to be changed on the style sheet and all pages will show the larger text. Using CSS, web developers get more control over how web pages will look than HTML does. Therefore, most web pages today incorporate cascading style sheets. Advantages of using CSS. Some of the benefits of using CSS are described here. CSS allows the users to apply a uniform look across the several pages of a website using least commands. It saves time. Use of CSS provides easy maintenance since changes made in CSS file automatically updates the design style of any element in all the web pages. CSS offers advanced and better design styles than HTML in order to control the appearance of the elements in an HTML page. Gradually, HTML attributes are no longer supported or recognized by all web browsers. Therefore, it is recommended to use CSS along with HTML to design web pages. It ensures compatibility with all the web browsers. CSS syntax. In CSS, style rules are applied to HTML elements. A selector and a declaration block form a style rule. Syntax. Look at the given illustrations to understand the CSS syntax. Let us now understand the terms used in CSS syntax in detail. Selector. A selector refers to any HTML element to which a style will be applied. For example, body, h1, p, and so on. Property. A property refers to an attribute of HTML element. Remember, each selector has different sets of properties associated with it. For example, background color, color, font size, and so on. Value. It refers to the value or option assigned to a property. For example, value for the background color property can be red, blue, or any other color. Declaration. A property and its value are collectively called a declaration. For example, color orange. Rule. In CSS syntax, a rule includes a selector and declarations together. Methods to include CSS in an HTML document. In an HTML document, you can apply CSS styles in the following three ways. Inline CSS, internal or embedded CSS, external CSS. Inline CSS. An inline CSS is used to apply a unique style to a single HTML element. An inline CSS uses the style attribute of an HTML element. For example, The above CSS style rule will make the text color of the H1 element appear blue with yellow background color, as shown in figure. Internal or embedded CSS. An internal CSS has wider scope than the inline CSS since it is used to define style rules for an entire HTML document in one place. An internal CSS is defined in the head section of an HTML page, enclosed within the style and close style element. Style rules defined using internal CSS are automatically applied to all the instances of the selector element in the HTML document. The given CSS style rules will make the background color of a web page appear in cyan and all the H1 appear in blue text color with 50 pixel font size. External CSS. An external style sheet is used to define the style for many HTML pages. With an external style sheet, you can change the look of an entire website by making changes in one single file. In this method, a user needs to create a separate file to define the style rules. This file can be used with any HTML document. An external style sheet can be written in any text editor. This file must not contain any HTML code and must be saved with a .css extension such as stylesheet.css. A separate file is created that contains the HTML code. Therefore, this method incorporates two files. CSS properties. CSS provides various properties for customizing the appearance of different elements on a web page. Let us learn about some of the basic CSS properties in detail. The color property. As the name suggests, the color property specifies the color of the text. You have already learned how to apply color property in the earlier examples. Syntax. In CSS, the different methods to give color value are described here. Background properties. In HTML, through CSS, you can set the background style of an element with the following properties: color, image, repeat, position, and attachment. The background color property. This property is used to set the background color of an element. In the earlier part of the chapter, you have already learned how to use the background color property. You can set the value of this property using the color name, hexadecimal value, or RGB value. A table for reference is given here. The background image property. This property allows you to add an image to be shown as the background of an element. You can set the value of this property by using the URL or valid path of the image. Syntax. You can further customize the appearance of the added image with the help of the following two CSS properties. The background position property. This property defines the position of the background image on the web page. You can set the property of this value using the X pos and Y pos. X pos or X position is the X axis, horizontal or width value, which can be left, center, or right, or can be specified in percentage of the page width-wise. Y pos or Y position is the Y axis, vertical or height value, which can be top, center, or bottom, or can be specified in percentage of the page lengthwise. Note: 0% 0% is top left position, 50% 50% is center of the page, and 100% 100% is bottom right corner of the page. For example, setting value in position, background position, top center. Setting value in percentage, background position, 50% 50%. The background repeat property. By default, the inserted image is repeated both horizontally and vertically on a web page. The background repeat property lets you change this setting. You can set the value of this property as repeat. It is the default value. No repeat. This value does not repeat the image. Repeat X. It repeats the image horizontally. Repeat Y. This value is used to repeat the image vertically. The background attachment property. Using this CSS property, you can either fix the image on the web page or make it scroll while scrolling the web page. You can set the value of this property as fixed or scroll, default value. Font properties. The font properties facilitate the settings and appearance of individual characters in a line of text. Let us learn about the various font properties available in CSS. The font family property. This font property specifies the prioritized list of font family names to be used to display a given element on web page. Suppose the browser does not support the first font name, then it automatically tries the next font specified in the list. The possible values you can set for this property could be Arial, Calibri, Verdana, Courier New, Times New Roman, name of font. Syntax. Examples: font family Verdana, font family Arial. The font size property. It is used to set the size of the text. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property could be large, extra large, extra extra large, small, extra small, extra extra small, medium, smaller, larger, percentage. Value can be specified in pixels, centimeters, and so on. Examples: font size large, font size 30%, font size 25 pixels. The font style property. This property specifies the style for the text and displays it accordingly. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property are normal, italic, oblique. Examples: font style italic, font style oblique. The font weight property. This property specifies the thickness of the characters in the text. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property are normal, bold, bolder, lighter, and value between 100 and 900. Examples: font weight bolder, font weight 350. Text properties. The text properties in CSS provide various formatting options to style text in a web page. In the following section, you will learn about the various text properties and how to apply them in an HTML document. The text align property. This property specifies the horizontal alignment of the text. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property are left, right, center, and justify. Examples: text align, left. The text decoration property. This property specifies the decoration that can be applied to the text in the form of underline, overline, or line through. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property are underline, overline, and line through. Example: text decoration, line through. The text transform property. This property is used to transform the case of the text. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property are uppercase, lowercase, and capitalize. Example: text transform, uppercase. The text indent property. This property is used to specify the indentation of the first line of the text. Syntax. The value you can set for this property is length in pixels or percentage. Example: text indent 25 pixels. The text shadow property. This property adds shadow around the text. This feature may not be supported by all the web browsers. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property are edge shadow, V shadow, and color. Edge shadow. It specifies the horizontal distance of the shadow. V shadow. It specifies the vertical distance of the shadow. Color. It specifies the color of the shadow. Example: text shadow 5 pixel yellow. Border properties. Border properties help you set the border style, border width, and border color of an HTML element. Let us now learn about some border properties. The border style property. It sets the style of the 4 borders around the element. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property are dotted, dashed, solid, double, groove, ridge, inset, and outset. Example: Border style solid. The border width property. It specifies the thickness of all the 4 borders of an element. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property are thin, thick, medium, and value in pixels. Example, border width thick, border width 8 pixels. The border color property. This property allows you to change the color of the border surrounding an element. Syntax. The possible values you can set for this property are color name, hexadecimal value, and RGB value. Example, border color pink, border color #00FF00.
Quick recall. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS is a style sheet that provides a set of style rules for defining the layout of HTML documents. A selector refers to any HTML element to which a style will be applied. A property refers to an attribute of HTML element. A property and its value are collectively called a declaration. A selector and a declaration block form a style rule. There are 3 methods to include CSS in an HTML document: inline, internal embedded, and external. An inline CSS is used to apply a unique style to a single HTML element. An inline CSS uses the style attribute of an HTML element. An internal CSS has wider scope than the inline CSS, since it is used to define style rules for an entire HTML document in one place. The common properties used in CSS include color, background image, font, text, and border properties.